Welcome to They Mostly Pottered at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 106 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. The dog days of summer are here.
Yes,
The
they are.
cicadas are buzzing, the skin is a burning, and the song of the chainsaw is on the wind. That's right, we're jumping into the dog days of summer with everyone's favorite summer fun franchise, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We'll be taking the next 3 weeks to bring you all 9 films, because there's 9 films now in the franchise. So 3 episodes, 3 films each for most of August.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost all of August.
This week we're doing the first 3, which is, of course, the very first one, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974. The sequel, also done by Tobe Hooper in 1986, 12 years later. And then the third one, not done by Tobe Hooper, but it came out in 1990. We'll discuss that when we get to. So I guess we'll start off with everybody's favorite, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974.
Yes.
So yeah, it opens up with the lovely John Larroquette doing the opening narration. Basically, saying that, mean killer people are out there and things are bad. But it's like there's people robbing graveyards and like making sculptures out of the corpses that are being taken.
They say that, but we only get it once.
Well, I mean, they show it to us one time, but like it may have been happening across the state. Who knows?
Yeah.
So basically, I guess it's a bunch of kids going cross country. They don't really say what they were doing. But at least as part of it, I don't know if this was their final destination or not, but apparently their family had come from this area, and they had moved away, but they were from here originally. So they came here to the graveyard to see if their grandfather, who was buried there, was one of the corpses that was messed with. So after visiting some colorful locals, they find out that no, Grandpa is not touched or messed with. So they go, okay, well, we're out here. We're gonna go try to find the house that our grandparents like grew up in, the farmhouse in the middle of nowhere that they're going to go to. So they can't find it. They stop at a gas station. They ask the kindly gas station guy, hey, where this house is, and he's like, oh, you guys don't want to hang out here. You should just leave. They're like, no. This is, our parents own this land still. We just haven't been here in a really long time. We just want to go, relive our childhoods in this house. They're like, okay, well, yeah, there's a road back there. Follow that. You'll find the house. So it is Sally and Franklin are the two kids that their grandparents actually live there.
Yeah.
Right. Franklin is in a wheelchair. They keep calling him an invalid. I don't know what is actually wrong with him. I mean, obviously his legs don't work, but I don't think he seems to be normal otherwise. I mean, he's a little off, but he doesn't seem to be like, like mentally challenged or anything. He seems okay. Childish.
Yes.
But I mean, he doesn't seem to be like, I don't know. They don't play him as being like severely, disabled or anything. Very annoying for sure. I mean, really annoying.
Like blowing raspberries annoying.
Yes. Right, yes. Extremely annoying and very childish, but he doesn't seem to be. I think that to me it feels like it's more of he was just raised as a baby because he needed special help and care more than he's like mentally challenged. That's just what I think. Whatever. They call him an invalid in the actual narration. So and I think they say it again in the second one. They call him an invalid again. Whatever. So he's an invalid, whatever that means. So they go down to this house and they're all having a good old time. Franklin is obviously upset because he can't go up the stairs and they're all hanging out and and goofing off upstairs. This old kind of like beaten down farmhouse. The other two people that are with them, I honestly don't remember their names. It doesn't matter,
It
but
definitely does not matter.
it doesn't matter. But anyway, there's another couple, a guy and a girl,
Mhm.
that are there. So in total, there's five of them. So there's Sally, her brother Franklin, who's in the wheelchair. I'm guessing Sally's boyfriend, kind of, sort of. They acted like they were dating, whatever. I don't remember his name either. That also doesn't really matter. And then there's another couple, a guy and a girl. The guy is, I guess, he's like Mr. Fashion in 1974. He's wearing like a paisley shirt and like bell bottom pants with the glasses and the big like fro hair.
He
Um,
reminds me of David Letterman.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, back in those days, yes, for sure. So oh, we heard there was a swimming hole back here. Where's that swimming hole? And Franklin goes, oh, it's back behind those two sheds back there. There's a trail leading right to it. So they go on the this trail and they don't find a swimming hole, but they hear a generator. And I guess I should have clarified. When they're at the gas station, they were running low on gas. And the gas station guy said they don't have any gas. He's like, well, we should get some later on this afternoon. So if you want to stick around, come back later, you can get some gas, or maybe even tomorrow morning. So they're
Well,
like,
they pitched
okay.
up at the Hitchhiker before this too, didn't they?
Oh yeah, you're right. But yeah, before they got there, between the graveyard and the gas station, they pick up uh I don't know. This guy is definitely mentally challenged, right? This guy, there's definitely something seriously wrong with him. Just off, broken. He's like kind of messed up. He's got like a little purse made out of like a fox fur around his neck, and he's got a camera. And he's just kind of very off. He like takes a pictures of Franklin. He's like trying to charge him for it, and he's like, no. And then he like just burns the picture with like gunpowder. Then Franklin was like picking his nails with a knife, and he like takes the knife and like cuts deep into his hand, like bleeding everywhere. And then just kind of, makes weird squirrely noises, hands the knife back. And then it shows him his straight razor that he's got. He's like, oh, I got a knife too. You like my knife? And everybody's like, no. like, please leave. So they eventually they kind of get him out of the van, and as he gets out of the van, he like smears blood all over the side of the van with his hand. They look at it and they're like, doesn't that look like a symbol or something? Whether it was or not, I guess it doesn't matter, because things happened that kind of make that useless. But I think that was probably a way for him to mark their car if they went the way that he thought they were going to go.
That's my assumption at this point. I don't think it really mattered,
But
but
yeah, it didn't matter. The way things played out, it did not matter.
right.
But anyway, so yeah, you're right. So basically, we get to that point. Okay, so then they're like, okay, we're out of gas. They hear a generator in the background when they're walking to this swimming hole, and they're like, oh, there's a generator. They must have gas. Like, we'll go up and offer them some money, to get the gas, and then when we get all the gas, then we'll come back with money and give them more. I don't know. The plan sounds stupid, but this is their plan, is to get some gas and then come back later and pay them more money or something. So anyway, they go to this, house. They see the generator. Nobody's around. They see like a kind of a camouflage, like tarp kind of thing that's hiding all these like cars. And they're like, that's strange. So they go up to the front door. They're banging on the door, yelling, looking for help. The girl just kind of sits down on the steps, and the guy is like, oh, the door's open. I'll just walk right in. So
Right.
yeah, he just walks right in. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, look, this is wall with all these weird animal heads on it. That's strange. And then in enters our infamous I guess antagonist that basically appears in every single film for the rest of this, is our good old friend Leatherface. And in his first appearance, his mask looks, I don't even know. I guess it looks kind of latexy.
Yeah.
Or something, whatever. But it's a skin mask is what he's wearing. It's a skin mask with like weird old lady makeup on it.
And he kills people with a chainsaw. Oh,
Yes.
wait. No, he uses a hammer.
Yeah, this time he uses a hammer. and
Yes.
just donk, just hits the dude in the head, it like slams this weird door shut, and then we can no longer see anything.
Yep.
The girl waits for a while, doesn't hear him, is like, oh, I wonder what's going on. She makes the genius decision to also start wandering around in the house, right? She goes the other way and she finds the fun room, as I call it, which is like all these like weird, bizarre bone sculptures and chickens just hanging from cages from the ceiling, and like furniture made out of like arms and legs and bones, and it's like Ed Gein's wet dream in this room.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
chicken in a cage.
right. Yeah. She immediately starts screaming, of course, like, oh, this is horrible. Running through the house. Of course, this is Leatherface makes another appearance, again without a chainsaw, and just grabs her and just hangs her up on a meat hook.
Yeah.
While he like starts butchering the dude, because the dude is dead, just laying on the table.
Oh, he dead. That he was like
Oh yeah,
twitching and convulsing after
right.
hitting the head.
No, he was definitely dead, but she's hanging, still alive on the meat hook, and then he starts just kind of going to work, butchering up the guy.
Yep.
So then we cut back to, it's starting to get dark. So there's Sally, Franklin, and then Sally's boyfriend, who were all like, huh, they're not coming back. Where did you say they were? Oh, they went to the swimming hole. The trail's between the two sheds back there. He's like, all right, I'm going to go check it out. And Sally's like, no, you can't leave me here. And he's like, well, you got to stay with Franklin. So he leaves.
I do. I do appreciate you doing the Southern voice for Franklin because he's the only one with a Southern accent.
He's like bizarrely super strong Southern accent.
Right.
So he leaves. He goes to investigate. Sally is very upset about it. She's just like, and Franklin's like, trying to like console her. Well, I found a flashlight. Great, Franklin. Thanks.
Let me go honk the horn. He ain't come.
Right. So then, so Franklin is definitely making a point to annoy everyone. So by this point in the film, everyone hates Franklin. I mean, it is
especially the audience.
Yeah. Again, we've been in a theater watching this movie. Yes. Everyone cheers at the next part. Well, we're not there yet. Anyway.
Yeah.
So boyfriend goes to the house. Tries to find out what's happening. He goes inside the house too, of course. Everybody just walks right into people's houses out here. And I hear a noise. What's that noise? He opens up the freezer, and it's not Sally. The other girl is like frozen in there.
Yep.
And he's like, oh my God, so he like tries to save her. She just like starts like screaming uncontrollably, like, I guess kind of in the fits of madness, right? And then we're dead, and then we get the chainsaw now.
Yes.
Now the chainsaw comes out. Dude gets chainsaw murdered, as you do. And then we cut back to Sally and Franklin. So Sally is, at this point, it's dark, right? It's nighttime, and she's like, well, I got to go find my boyfriend. I'm leaving. Give me the flashlight. I want to hold the flashlight. You don't need it. So they're fighting back and forth. The stupid flashlight. Anyway, finally they decide, okay, well, Franklin's going to go with her through the woods. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that works, but he's going to hold the flashlight. So they're going along. She ends up pushing him in the chair. Anyway, they're going through the forest, and of course they meet our lovely friend Leatherface, who is chasing them around with a chainsaw. We get a long chase scene here. Franklin buys it almost right away because obviously he's in a wheelchair. He's not going very far. And that's the part, literally everybody in the theater cheers when that part happens, because Franklin is just so annoying.
Yeah, he gets like eviscerated with the chainsaw.
Right. So Leatherface chases her all around the outside. All through their house, like in and out of the house, in and out of their yard, in and out of like the other house, and then she finally makes it all the way to the gas station, which I thought was kind of sort of far away. I guess not.
Well, I mean, she ran pretty far for jumping out.
Yeah, but Leatherface is a husky guy.
I'd say if you're jumping out a second story window.
Right, I'm saying, but like Leatherface is a husky guy. I don't think he's running that far. But
No.
anyway, so he does. So she goes all the way back to the gas station. Leatherface chases her all the way to the door. She gets inside, and the friendly gas station attendant is like, "Oh, what's going on? What's happening?" She's like, "Oh, being chased." She's like freaking out, kind of like can barely talk and scream. And he's like, "Oh, hold on." She's like, "Oh, let's call the police." "Oh, we don't have a phone. We'll have to drive over to the deputy's house." So he goes and gets his truck, and he comes back in, and he's got rope and a burlap sack. So this is where we find out that the gas station attendant guy was in it the whole time, which is it's a trope now, I guess, but in 1974, I guess it wasn't.
Right.
This is probably the movie that started that trope of like
Oh,
the guy at the
easily.
gas station is always involved.
Easily started. Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, he ties her up, puts her head in the sack, throws her in the truck, and drives back up to the house. So, yes, he is part of the family with Leatherface. And on his way up there, he meets the creepy hitchhiker kid, who is also part of this family. So now we have, creepy gas station attendant guy, Leatherface, the guy who wears a skin mask and a chainsaw, and the creepy hitchhiker guy that slices open his own hand and lights pictures on fire with gunpowder. Um, and he's apparently the guy who makes the bone sculptures,
Yeah.
as we find out, because as he's getting kicked by the dad, or no, it's not his dad, it's their older brother. He acts like the dad, but he's actually their older brother.
Yeah. Because he's only like 50 here. And these
Right.
people are in their 20s or 30s.
Right. But he's anyway, they say he's your older, but anyway, so he kicks him like, "Oh, you're messing around with them graveyards again," so obviously he's the one that's doing these bizarre sculptures with dead bodies. Anyway, so they bring they bring her in the house, and they decide that oh, they all kind of take a shine to her, right? So they like her, so they tie her up at the table and decide to have dinner with her.
Even
So
making her a plate.
yeah, they make her a plate, nice little sausage on the plate and everything. Leatherface puts on his better skin mask with the even more, obvious old lady makeup on it. I guess trying to dress his best, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
you say only make like just like blue eyeshadow, like
yeah, like blue
below her
eyeshadow
rosy
from like
cheeks.
eyeballs to forehead hairline.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I guess this is also 1974. So so yeah, they're all eating dinner. They're all arguing back and forth because the dad, or sorry, not the dad, the older brother slash dad, he'll cook all the food, which is human meat, but he won't kill anybody. So
You're
they're
just the cook.
yeah, there's a you just the cook. You're too weak. We have to do all the hard work. Um, and so they're kind of teasing him for that. But anyway, they kind of snaps out of it by like, yeah, whatever. Bring Grandpa down. Grandpa is the one that's the best at killing. They're talking about the slaughterhouses and how they used to, hit them with the hammer to kill the cow, and now they ruined it with the pneumatic air gun. And Grandpa was the best with the hammer. So bring Grandpa down. He'll be able to kill her in one easy hit with the hammer. So they bring Grandpa down, who is a corpse essentially. I mean, he looks like a corpse. He's sitting next to Grandma, who is a corpse.
Yes.
But Grandpa just looks like a corpse. He doesn't move. I mean, when I think the first time I saw it, I was pretty sure he just was a corpse, and they were
Well,
just
I mean,
convincing themselves that he was alive.
right, because when she went into the act where she jumped out of it, she saw the grandma and grandpa, and he didn't move at all.
Right. Yeah, he didn't move at all there, and he didn't move when he brings it down. He doesn't move until like later on when they start like trying to put the hammer in his hand and trying to get him to actually hit her. Then he starts moving a little bit.
The finger sucking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They give him a little bit of blood to suck on, and then he's like, "Oh, he is. Oh shit, he is alive." So they keep trying to put the hammer in his hand, and he keeps like missing and dropping the hammer. Like obviously this isn't going to happen. But while all that's happening, she manages to escape. She manages to get out of the things that are tying her down, and she runs. And she just runs out. Of course, Leatherface chases her with the chainsaw. And they by this time apparently it's light out. I don't know how long they were sitting at that table, but it's now light out.
That
It's now
sausage
like
is cold.
right, yeah. It's now early morning, and she runs all the way to the highway or whatever street there was that's close by. Leatherface, close on her heels. She flags down a big like semi truck. Uh, truck driver. It's one of the funniest parts of the movie. The truck driver gets out like, "Oh shit, what's wrong? There's this, bloody, lady in the middle of the street. What the hell is this?" And he gets out of the truck to go see what's going on, and he sees Leatherface with the chainsaw. And he just goes, "Nope." And he just immediately turns around and runs back in the truck, as you would, right?
Oh yeah, no
So,
words.
yeah. So he throws her in the truck. He gets in the truck. Leatherface is trying to cut through the door, and in this film, at least, the chainsaw can't make it through the metal door. So they run out the other side. And then there's another pickup truck that comes by. The truck driver guy gets chainsawed. I don't know. Does he
No, he doesn't get
die?
chainsaw. No, he doesn't get chainsaw.
Well, they
He
chases
fights.
him.
He fights him with a wrench. He hits he fights Leatherface with a wrench that he has.
Right. But anyway, so
And then
they get
yeah.
yeah, they get in this pickup truck. But anyway, as they're fighting, the Leatherface falls down and manages to chainsaw his own leg.
Yes.
Just a little bit, just enough to cause blood. So they get in the pickup truck and they drive away, and then we get I guess I want to call it like an interpretive dance. Leatherface's interpretive dance with the chainsaw, screaming, kind of just swinging it around in the middle of the road, and then that's it. The movie's over.
Yep.
Done. Did you ever see the movie Summer School?
No.
There was a movie. It's called Summer School with Mark Harmon. It was one of those like crappy kind of 80s comedies. It was one that I liked as a kid. Anyway, there was two kids that were in the summer school class that were obsessed with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And one guy's name was Chainsaw, and the other guy's name was Dave. And then when they had their film day in school, when they could like bring in a movie for everybody to watch, they made everybody watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's they showed only a couple of scenes from the movie in there, but one of the scenes that they did show was him dancing around with the chainsaw in the middle of the street. So I saw that movie before I actually saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I knew of at least some parts of the movie from that movie.
Yeah, I mean, Texas Chainsaw was something for me that I was never a big Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise fan after the first one. So it was kind of like a once watch through, especially with anything after one, every once in a while. But I would say, especially when we saw this one, that was our first massacre that we did, that we sponsored, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to see it in theater, and I enjoyed it. But I mean, it still holds up. I think it works well for being a 50-year-old movie. And, really the implied gore is fantastic because they don't really show much gore.
Yeah. For being a movie about a killer with a chainsaw, there's not as much gore as you would expect.
Well, I'll say this too. It almost feels like this should have been called Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I think he kills more people with a hammer than he does a chainsaw.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, who does he kill with the chainsaw? He kills the boyfriend and Franklin are the only two people he kills with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
So, he does run around with it a lot. So,
right. And I would even say in the second one, he kills more people with a hammer for the most part too.
That's possible too. But he does run around with it a lot.
He does.
So he does cut a lot of things.
For a massacre, there's more. It's almost equal amounts of sledgehammer massacre too.
Right.
So I don't think I've ever realized that until this rewatch.
Well, the Texas Hammer Massacre doesn't sound as good.
That's true. So do you want to go with your highlights first or me first?
I'll go first. I'll let you can finish both out. Okay, so highs. One is I think it's hilarious that it's actually John Larroquette that does the narration of this film because it's 1974. Tobe Hooper was nobody at this time.
Mhm.
And how they got John Larroquette to do the narration is funny because he was kind of big at that time. Not huge, but he was a name anyway. I like the grave robber art and the bone art that they do in the film. You don't really see much of it until later on when they like get into the depth of the house. But it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely like Ed Gein inspired. Like they must have looked at the Ed Gein photos and kind of made everything from that because it's very Gein esque, I will say. I would say the kind of the way that they lead up to it, right? The way that they lead up to stuff is they kind of show a lot of ominous stuff. Like when they're talking about the slaughterhouses, they show like a bunch of footage of like sick cows and like moving weird and like just like kind of like haunting sounds and music in the background when they show them, and then they just cut back to like the regular film as if nothing was happening. It's just kind of foreshadowing through like I don't know artistic foreshadowing. It's is I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. The way that the hitchhiker goes, where they're like, okay, this is weird. When they're at the graveyard and you get all like the drunk local, the horny local, like they're just all these weird kind of like interesting, colorful people. You're in like a weird kind of like caricature esque place. The house that they go to is like they said their grandparents lived there and they were there as kids and they're not that old. So, like you said, like within 10 years, that house looked like a derelict house.
Texas takes back.
I guess it was like that house looked like it had been empty for 30 years.
Oh, easily.
But anyway, it fits that that kind of just ominous lead up. I thought it was a good kind of a build up to where it got to.
Mhm.
I do like Leatherface a lot. One because he's messed up, right? He's wearing a skin mask. We don't learn anything about him
Yeah.
at all. Like we learned that he was once, kind of an apprentice to Grandpa at the slaughterhouse before they shut it down. But that's really it. We don't really learn anything else about him. He's kind of a large husky dude, which is not really shown in slashers, right? Like the antagonist is never a big big dude. They're always
Right.
fit and able to run for long periods of time, and he's not, even though he does. But he's kind of like weirdly anxious, right? There's a couple of scenes where he's like, pacing back and forth, like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Obviously, he's not saying that, but like you can tell he's thinking that. Like he's like sitting down, like staring out the window, like worried about what's gonna happen or where he's gonna go. It's just odd for a guy wearing a skin mask to be
As
like,
nuanced as he
anxious
is.
and nervous. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's more to it. It's interesting. Um I would say they kind of show the madness of the victims pretty well. Like they show her like when she's sitting at the table, like slowly watching them like degrade into like, their cannibal behavior. Like you could just see the way that they show her eyes, the way that they show the music, that her screaming all around. You could just see her like literal descent into madness. Like she is just
Oh, yeah.
broken. Like
Oh,
she
yeah. I
is
mean,
she is not going to be okay.
she doesn't have lines for the last 25 minutes of
Right,
the
yeah, she's
movie.
just screaming, it's just bad, but you can really see it, like,
Yeah.
it's bad, she breaks down, and, of course, I love that truck driver, that guy is hilarious, this way he goes, "Nope," he
Yeah.
just immediate, no hesitation, just turns right around, "Nope, not doing that,"
Yeah.
as you should,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's all I got. What do you got?
I do like the implied gore because a lot of people really don't remember that you don't see any chainsaw really hitting any flesh. It's not until the very end that there's a chainsaw that draws blood that you actually see.
Yeah, and it's on Leatherface himself.
Right. So I think that's just kind of our brains for the past 50 years have always filled it in there. And on the rewatches and stuff like that, you always go, that's a testament to how it was done because we have it in our heads that we see it, but we don't. So I think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's a budgetary thing at that point in time,
Right.
but I do appreciate that you can still have it to this day that your brain still fills it in. I think the family dynamic, the psychoticism that exists is fantastic. I think that, you know, uh the son or the youngest one, let's call him, I think his name's Nubbins. I looked it up. And, you know, showing how crazy he is just being a hitchhiker. You know, Leatherface has this mysterious enigma that is Leatherface. And the cook, he seems like a normal guy, just kind of doing normal things. He's the gas station attendant. Like, he didn't go after them and kill them at that point in time. He just waited till there's like one person left. He's like, oh shit, someone escaped. I guess I got to do something about it.
Right. And he also did tell them, just keep going, just keep
Yeah,
moving, you know, just
right,
keep going on through. You don't want to stop here.
right. Despite his, you know, award-winning barbecue.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he eats people too. It's not like he's innocent, but
Right. As you point out, the house, the aesthetic, the fun room. And I think rewatching this after, you know, 2 years ago talking, you know, not us talking personally, but John Duke talking about that scene with the chicken in the cage, having to be on the ground poking it with a stick because it wasn't making noises because it's content being in the bird cage. I think that just makes the story and behind the scenes make that room even better and those scenes even better to me. I like that it's gritty. It's dirty. It's a dirty movie. It's everyone's just like filthy, you know.
well, it does, you know, like, you know, as we talked in the intro, and like, you know, Dog Days of Summer, like this, it really does feel like it's hot. Like you can
Yeah,
tell it's a hot summer day when this happens.
I almost sweat in empathy just
Yeah,
because how hot
exactly.
it seems. And they said it was fucking hot when they did it too. Um, and of course, the truck driver. We have a slightly less overweight guy trying to run away with an overweight guy with a chainsaw, and like he just runs out of the movie. He
Yep.
just, I have my giant mechanic wrench here, hit it up. Oh, it works. I threw it at him. Oh, he fell a little bit, chopped his leg up a little bit, and he just noped out of there. But Sally is like, I'm in the truck. I'm free. Fuck that guy that just tried to attempt to save me.
Right.
Like that truck driver is a role I'd want to do in a horror movie. Just to do that. So I appreciate him for that. I'll roll into my low points. Obviously, number one, Franklin,
Yeah.
hands down.
Correct. That's the correct answer.
That is, I'm like, God damn, this guy needs to die. He's just like he's saying, he's invalid, but he's also very childish. And I wouldn't have brought him. No way. There's no way I would have brought him.
Well, again, there's that kind of question at that point, right? Where
Mhm.
Franklin asks her, "Why did you ask me to come?" Like he's obviously like understands that everyone's annoyed with him, nobody likes him, and he's like, "Why did you ask me to come if you didn't want me to be here?"
Right. You still don't have to be a complete ass about everything, though.
Right.
You know, for being a cook, that I don't feel like the guy respects barbecue. When he takes her out of the gas station, he just leaves it going.
Yeah,
Doesn't
low and
respect his.
slow. Isn't that how you're supposed to
It was pretty fiery for low and slow. So I question his cooking abilities. And that, you know, next one really makes me question even more. I would say that this movie introduced the idea of head cheese to a lot of people.
do? Yeah, well, you know, unfortunately, I already knew what head cheese was at that point.
But
So,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't think a lot of people did.
probably not. Probably not. Nobody should like wants to know.
Correct.
It's a very small group of people that will eat head cheese and enjoy it, and it's usually not people that you'd want in your movie.
No. Broom attack. She's just like, at her. And she's like, she is selling it like she's getting hit hard. But she's not. I question, okay, you tied her up. She's already at the house. Why do you have a burlap bag over her? What's the point of it?
Well, maybe I mean maybe so like people don't see her head. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm like, I understand tying her up, but the burlap bag, like, she's not going someplace she doesn't know it exists. That's not
Well,
some
okay. Well,
secret
if you
out.
see if you see rope you're like, okay, am I going to be tied up? If you see rope in a bag, shit, I'm being kidnapped. Like, there's, you know what I mean? There's no question. Maybe that's why it's there. It's just to solidify that yes, you are being kidnapped now.
Okay. So, did Franklin have a cigar, B, a baby Ruth, or C, a piece of shit in his mouth?
It was, it's funny because I notice this every time, and it's like, just eat the damn thing. Why are you like? It's not jerky. It's a hunk of sausage. Like, just eat it.
It looked like a turd.
It does. It for sure does. It does not look appetizing at all. And it's a sausage that was, hanging over the fire in the gas station.
God damn. I'm looking at this, like, I guess I didn't put that together. I'm just looking, like, what is that supposed to be? I
Because
have
there's
zero
like
idea.
a weird like little mini scene in where the one guy comes back out of the gas station and he goes, "I got us some barbecue." And when he opens the bag, there's a sausage in it.
But he takes it out like he's gonna bite the end of it like a cigar. And he
Yeah,
has
oh
it
yeah,
hanging
no,
from
and
his
he
mouth.
keeps it hanging out of his mouth like it's like you said, a cigar, or like it's a piece of jerky, and he's like savoring it or something. Like, dude, it's a hunk of sausage. Just eat it.
Yeah. And let's face it, 25 minutes of screaming.
It's
I could
excessive.
do, yeah, I could
Yes.
do without that, and the 10 minutes going through branches. I feel like she's just circling the same tree over and over because that's the only tree they found with all those branches that she can get caught up on in that chase scene.
Right.
That's what I got. How about you?
Milo Boy, I mean, I share two of the same. One, Franklin, of course, because that's the right answer. And two is screaming for too goddamn long. I like, she's screaming over their entire conversation when they're
Mhm.
talking about him being the cook and them doing that, and she's just screaming the entire time, and they're just ignoring her. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they've been through it before, but it's like, okay, can we just like cut it? Can we cut the screaming? You gag her or something, please.
Yeah.
But here is an interesting question. I think I may have brought this up before. According to Texas law, what laws do you think the cannibal family broke?
Well, they were trespassing on their property.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's like, Texas is basically like, you step on their property, they can kill you and do whatever they want. Obviously, eating them is probably not. It's probably against the law to cannibalize someone, right? It's
I
like,
would say selling their body parts in barbecue would be one for
well,
sure.
but we don't know for sure that they did that. We don't know if they kept the human for themselves. They don't ever show that part of it happening. But I would say, like, so abuse of a corpse, right?
Yeah.
But like murder, I don't think they would be convicted in a Texas court of law.
No.
Right? Which is funny because it's a massacre. All these people murdered all these people, but like, by actual Texas law, they didn't really do anything wrong. These people all came into their home. You know what I mean? They all came into their home. The only one that's questionable is the girl, because she did leave their property and they brought her back. And then she got away. So there, you could probably get kidnapping,
Right.
right? But it wouldn't be murder. All the murders happened because they were trespassing on their land and they stopped them.
Yeah.
So you'd get abuse of a corpse and wrongful kidnapping.
Right.
So by Texas law, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is only breaking two laws that you could probably get out of with good behavior in like a year. So Leatherface, the guy that wears a skin mask and kills people with the chainsaw, could walk out of jail in like a year in Texas.
I like that.
There you go. But yeah, that's all I got. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. You want me to go first, or you want me to go first? We're doing bone sculptures because there are bone sculptures in all of these films.
Yes.
Creative little structures that are made by the characters in the cannibal family. So we're doing bone sculptures out of 10. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
This is a fantastic movie. It is a classic. It holds up. I will give this 9 bone sculptures out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, this is the start of the franchise, right? This is the
Mhm.
movie that like every single horror icon person I've ever heard talk about this film has nothing but good things to say about it. It inspired a lot of films afterwards. So yeah, I mean, does this film have weak spots in it? Sure, but like if you look at the legacy that this film has, it is ridiculously huge. I mean, this predates a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the only one that is before this? I think what Black Christmas
Yeah,
is that? I don't.
1973.
Right. Yeah, it's like maybe a year. That's like the only slasher horror film that beats it out. This is like the first one to really do all this stuff. So I mean, really, in my mind, I don't. I have to give it a 10, simply because it is. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about this
I'm raising mine 9.5.
movie. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say this is, yeah. Does it have is it, does it have some weaknesses here and there? Sure, but again, this is 1974. This is the beginning of the horror genre as a whole, or I should say, as it's in its modern interpretation. This is
Mhm.
like one of the first films in the modern horror era.
And I would say, yeah, I mean, Black Christmas was a thing, but I'd say Texas is way more known than Black Christmas.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, Black Christmas is, again, it's got Christmas in the title, which kind of takes it away from being that classic horror film. I mean, it is, right. We've seen it, we know it is, but
Mhm.
and according to most people, that, oh, Black Christmas, it's one of those horror, Christmas, horror holiday movies, right? And not realizing that it was way before anything else, so that stuff didn't exist when that came out. But yeah.
All right, you ready for me to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre #2?
Yes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 came out in 1986, 12 years later, which is odd, but take it away.
It came out August 22nd, so it's almost been exactly 38 years at the time of recording.
Right.
So this is why it's Dog Days of Summer. So we start off with it being, I'd say, two quintessential 80s guys from any horror movie or comedy at this point in time.
Yeah, it's basically picture your frat boy asshole guys in
Yep.
any 80s movie that are the bad guys, and that's them.
Oh, hell, even the good guys. Let's
Well,
face
some
it.
of them, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Buzz and Rick, they're going through a Texas highway and they're just shooting signs everywhere they go. Like, woohoo, we're awesome. Let's shoot, our, I don't know what gun they're using, but whatever.
That was what you call a Colt Anaconda, sir.
Okay. And like, Rick the prick, as he lovingly calls himself, is the one doing all the shooting. And they see, a precursor to the Jeepers Creepers truck. And they're like, hey, let's play chicken. That's cool. Woo! So they play chicken. The guy honks and has like the comical, like La Cucaracha horn,
Yeah.
essentially. Um, like, oh man, we're so cool. And like, hey, let's call this local radio station and ask for songs. And they call in, and all of a sudden the truck comes back up, and holy shit, it's back. And like, oh my god, there's a guy with a chainsaw on the side, hang off the side, starts
It's
uh
Grandpa.
it is grandpa with an intense Leatherface who's has now a good head of hair on him with the mask, and not as heavily blushed or eyeshadowed mask, and essentially is going through and starts attacking their car, just tearing to shit. They start shooting at him, and he's like, "Oh no!" And then he kills Buzz, like he is dead. And the car kind of flips over, and well, poor Rick the Dick is also dead. So next day, somehow the car gets in that position. I don't know how. It doesn't seem logistical after someone's dead. And like, oh man, it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No one believed us that it happened 12 years because the opening credits talk about something that happened 12 years ago that no one could find any bodies or any substance of Sally who escaped stuff. So there's like, it's not real. We can't find anything, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Right. Yeah, they said they could not find the house that she described.
Yeah.
They couldn't find the gas station that she described. Apparently, they couldn't find anything, and then she was locked in a mental institution and then died 3 years later.
Yes. So she died in 1977.
Right.
Which is interesting for the movie that came out 2 years ago.
Well, again, in this timeline, in this timeline, she dies 3 years later.
Yeah. But the sheriff is their uncle, affectionately known as Lefty. He's like, oh man, he's been trying to figure out what happened. He goes to the scene. He's like, oh shit, that car's been torn up by a chainsaw. So he's like, okay, so what we need to do is, do something about that. The reporter the disc jockey from the radio station, meets up with him. Is like, hey, I have the recording of these guys that died. I have it. They were killed. Like hear a chainsaw and stuff like that. It's like, nah. Let's go ahead and take this. Nothing. It's nothing to it. I don't believe you. Blah blah blah. So kind of anyway, she goes, all right, now I'm also a reporter reporting on the local Texas chili cook-off. Somehow. I want to point out that I don't know what they call that position, the radio station, or her guess her, sound guy as well. I feel looks strikingly resemblance to the cook from the first one. But anyway, they're like, oh man, this is the world's best chili, and let's slop it into this trophy. And lo and behold, who won this chili cook-off? Why, it's the cook. It's the, Sawyer, who is now making chili for people and winning competitions.
Because he has a food truck.
Yes.
He has a barbecue food truck. So they're like nomad traveling all around Texas and selling barbecue from this food truck, and they're getting the meat from
people.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's an introduction to what's going on there. So heavily implied that they all just ate people. They didn't know it.
I don't yeah, I get it is heavily implied. You're like, oh, what's your secret? He's like, it's all in the meat.
Yeah, like almost breaks the fourth wall looking at us.
Right, yeah. Like I'm surprised he didn't wink and we get like a little, glint from his teeth or something.
I know. So anyway, we go to the Chainsaw Emporium.
I guess they have those in Texas. The
Sure.
chainsaw showroom.
Right. And I think Lefty plops down about $502 and onto the bench. She's like, oh man, starts checking out the chainsaw, starts like checking them out, like he's ready to saw up some deadites with it. And then, he proceeds to use a chainsaw the most inaccurate way possible I can think of while trying to test to see how it works.
Okay, it's like if you gave somebody a chainsaw and they've only ever used an axe.
Yes,
so he's using the chainsaw like an axe.
Yes, he's like hacking it. Like, this chainsaw works. Like, you just broke the chain,
right?
Like,
I'm also pretty sure that the chainsaw salesman is getting some form of sexual excitement from this because he seems to be enjoying it way too much.
Well, everybody gets sexual excitement from the chainsaws in this movie. So. So anyway, he goes back to Stretch, who is the DJ, and goes, hey, play this tape, as a request, like every hour, I believe he said.
Yeah, every hour on the hour.
All right. And so she's doing that, and they're like, oh man, it's like 11 o'clock, nothing's happening. I need to go take care of this. And I can't remember her partner's name. I have to look it up.
LG, I think his name is.
Yeah, sure. LG, and yeah, LG Peters, you're correct. So anyway, he's like, let's close up, nothing's happening. And then we get at the door, at the station, Chop Top, who I looked this up, is supposed to be the twin brother of the guy from the first one.
Oh,
So it's
is it?
not a
I just
retcon.
assumed it was the same guy. I mean, I noticed that the same actor, but I just assumed it was the same guy. I mean, it's
He got run
effectively
over
the
by
same.
a truck in the first one. So
Well, whatever.
yeah, but it's horror icon that now, not then. Bill Moseley, playing essentially what would become his character later in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Well, I think this is the movie that really made him that horror icon. I mean, he was in stuff earlier, but I think this is the one that solidified
Yes, and he was also in Silent Night, Deadly Night, number whatever.
it. Right.
At this around this time too. So anyways, like, oh, I'm your biggest one fan. He's like dressed out in hippie attire, almost kind of like the fashionable guy from the first one. But he is constantly lighting, the end of like a coat hanger and then scratching his head with it, and then like eating parts that he's picking off his head.
Yeah, yeah. He's wearing like old school like '60s hippie like
Yeah.
fashion, and he's got a Sonny Bono wig on.
Yeah. He's like,
And he's
groovy man, I like them hits. I like the head making stuff. I'm like, no, okay. Your story's a little shady as it is. Um, so kind of, anyway, he's like, yeah, I have a request for you. I couldn't do it on the phone. I had to do it in person here in the flesh. And just think of a Bill Moseley rant of a psychotic person he's playing, and that's your character. And you got it right. He's like, let's go into the record store. I want to see what's in there. Turn the light, boom, with Leatherface is there, ready to go for the jump scare. I don't know. We didn't see the planning session. He's like, all right, you go hide in here, big guy, and don't make a noise. So it starts kind of like, coming out, and she's like, oh shit. That's happening. LJ comes back because what's going on there, and he gets, as we do, chainsawed with a hammer. Oh wait, no, just a hammer, and just kind of beaten to the same twitchiness that the guy in the first one did. He's like, oh man, I got one. You go, hey Bubba, now you go get the other one. And so he's like, Leatherface is chasing her. She goes into the studio and she locks like a steel door, and he can't go through the steel door. But luckily, the walls were made of paper.
oh yeah.
He Kool-Aids himself, Kool-Aid his way in. And then we get this like, will they, won't they? Almost with that.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe that scene. It's like a way too long chainsaw sex scene. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, she's all sweating, and Leatherface is like rubbing the chainsaw on her legs. She's like, good. And
After he chainsaws in half all of these mysteriously like frosty like canned beverages that are all sitting in this like ice tub.
hey, you leave that big red beer alone, all right?
It's like, okay, just chainsaw all of the corporate sponsors of your
Mhm.
movie. Get them all out of the way in one big swipe there.
Right. So anyway, he's like, yeah, you should go now. He's like, and Leatherface is like, okay. And leaves. And like, hey Bubba, now, did you get her? Did you get her good? He's just shaking his head, yes, and then no, and then yes, and then like, all right. It's like, ooh, I got myself, a cowboy hat. I'm taking this. This is, LG's. So anyway, they go, all right. So they take the body back. It's like, he's like, I got one. We got a fresh meat or something like that. And all this is going on there. She starts kind of going after them. And like, where's Lefty? He just kind of left them there to die. And, everything like that. So they find abandoned, like, remember the Alamo Park
Yes.
that has way too much electricity for being abandoned.
It's like the Texas Battle Park or something ridiculous.
Yeah. So he finds, she pulls up, and she gets knocked unconscious after she goes and investigates a little bit, right?
Well,
And then
she's chasing after the car to make sure that
Yeah.
she finds out where they go. And then when she gets there, Lefty drives in and chases her with his car.
Yeah.
And she thinks she's being chased by somebody else. And then he gets out right as she falls into the hole in the ground.
the hole that goes like 80 feet.
Right. Yeah. So there's like a hole that they just drove their car over. We're talking Leatherface and Chop Top just drove their car over. And then she falls in this hole. And
Right,
so
to
then she has
underground the
her
park.
separate
Yeah,
story, and then Lefty has his separate story.
right. So yeah, so she, is kind of going around there. She gets knocked out a little bit, and she comes to with uh LG being skinned. And Leatherface making himself a new mask with the hair, because he likes that style of hair when it tapes off faces. And she's like, I gotta get out of here. And she, after hiding a little bit, there's like, ooh, a lady again. I'm infatuated with you. It's like, I gotta hide. He goes, yes. And it puts, LG's face on her with the cowboy hat because she's hiding, but is also tied up. Meanwhile, Lefty is going, oh shit, look at all these beams everywhere. I should start cutting them down. And I don't care what happens to the
with
structural integrity.
with a chainsaw. Yeah,
Yes.
he's got one giant chainsaw, and then he's got two chainsaws that he apparently went and got custom holsters made for,
Yes.
because he's wearing them like an old timey Wild West hip shooter, like one
Yeah.
on each hip. Yeah.
He also finds a wall that's slightly bleeding, kicks open. There's a bunch of organs behind this wall. How they got there, we'll never know.
That's the scraps from the barbecue food truck.
Sure. Up above the park. Sure, why not? So anyway, so he's just going around just yeehaw and cutting every beam he sees with
Yeah.
reckless abandon.
Now, I believe it's not really explained. He kind of sort of says it in between like wild screaming, but he says, "I'm gonna bring this whole thing down on you." Like he's
Down the hell.
yeah, he knows that they're in here somewhere, so he's trying to destroy the entire thing without even knowing what it is or how big it is
Correct.
by randomly cutting beams.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's that. He goes doing that for a while.
Yeah, he literally leaves the movie for a good chunk of time.
Yeah. So anyway, the LG's surprisingly not dead, and gets up. It's like, I gotta get you out of here. And then like acts like he's gonna stab her with a knife, and like he doesn't know how to use it because let's face it, he has giant folds of skin removed from his body, seemingly severe brain damage, and cuts her free. And he falls dead after freeing her. She puts his skin face back on with his cowboy hat.
So nice.
It is very nice. So anyway, she's trying to escape, but she just kind of goes through uh a little bit more and then like finds their underground lair. And I say lair, I mean think of like lair, like a villainous lair that's just expanding, just
Yeah,
tables
it's
and
like it's like a villain cave system.
yeah,
It's giant.
yeah. So anyway, they find her and they kind of bring her back to recreate the dining room table scene from the first movie, including getting Grandpa.
Yeah. I was gonna say, complete with Grandpa.
With a different Grandpa who's not as blue. So
Right.
I guess he's doing okay at a spry 137. They said that makes he was 125 in the first one. So anyway, they
He
kind of
doesn't
go,
look a day over 110.
no. So there's cat and mice. She's just screaming for the rest of this movie at this point in time, as Sally was in the first one. So as she's screaming, like I said, little cat and mouse, all this stuff, we get some one-liners, all this shit, and Lefty comes, echoing his voice through the HVAC system or tunnels, whatever he has there, and then we get a good old-fashioned chainsaw fight.
Chainsaw duel.
Duel, yes, I do have that listed on my list here. So, after he, chainsaws the cook's ass for a bit. So he's hiding on the table while their duel is happening above the table. And this is why I looked it up, because that corpse he steals the grenade off of is Nubbins. It's the guy from the first one.
Okay.
So that means they're in their traveling caravan cannibal food truck. They took the corpse of the one guy with them. So anyway, that's going on there. She is, the duel kind of happens. She kind of escapes a little bit, and So the cook's like, oh, I'm shit, I'm bleeding, this is bad, pulls a grenade and blows up everything in there. But Chop Top is chasing her through the top of the Texas Alamo battlefield place. And what do they find up there? Why, they find Grandma, who's holding the chainsaw.
Oh, also, you can't forget that Lefty also finds Franklin.
Oh yeah. Oh, Franklin. They brought Franklin's corpse
Right.
with them, wheelchair and all, with them. So yeah, he's there. I do have that on my list. So they get chased to the top, like, oh, you can't touch her, you get away from her. And she gets the chainsaw after he, loves his razor blade as well and starts slashing at her. She kind of gets him with the chainsaw, like uppercuts him almost with the chainsaw.
Right.
So he falls down and into the hole, like perfectly into the hole. And then she does, for some particular reason, Leatherface's choreographed dancing with the chainsaw at the end, the same exact dance on top of the Texas battleground.
Yeah, I call it the Leatherface wiggle.
There you go.
Because he holds up the chainsaw and then he wiggles his body like he's a snake.
Yes.
He does.
So,
he tries to do the Axl Rose dance.
Yes. But yeah, she also does that the weird thing where he just holds it by the hand and swings like he did in the street too. So end of movie. So I'll start with my first thoughts and rewatches. We've had many conversations about this movie, especially in prep for this episode, and I can see why people thought Texas Chainsaw 2 wasn't good. But knowing what it's supposed to be, it is a perfect piece of satire. Do you remember your first thoughts or on these rewatches as well?
Yeah, well, I'll go to the. I love that this movie exists, right? I love what this movie represents. It is you gotta picture that this is 1986, right? This is the heavy resurgence of horror. All the slasher movies, like most of them, have already had their first, sometimes even their second entries out by now. Right?
1986, Friday the 13th, like 20.
Right. And so it's like it's happened, right? This is a huge thing. And all of these people are all saying Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of the things that inspired them, right? So these big studio people are like, hey, we got Tobe Hooper. He's on board to make a sequel. This is going to be huge, right? Throw all the money you can at him, right? So they throw big money at him. He's got a big budget, right? They got Dennis Hopper. We got Savini to do all the effects, right? We got, this is big money. Like, throw everything we got on it. And they think they're like, oh, this is gonna be a gold mine, right? There's no way this can go down. And this movie comes out, and it really, there's no other way to describe it as like a twisted fever dream, right? This movie is all over the fucking place. Like, half the time you don't even know what the fuck is going on. Like, what is happening? What is he trying to represent here? It's just bizarre, but it's great. And I just can't imagine the look on those studio people's faces going, what the hell is this? Like, what the hell did we pay for? What the hell did he make?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very polarizing now. Like, you'll find some people that love it and some people that hate it. Regardless of how they feel about the first one. Most people, I've never really heard a lot of people talk anything bad about the first one.
Right.
But the second one, I've heard a lot of people talk shit. Like, they do not like the second one. I am in the opposite camp. I love this movie. Just because it is so ridiculous, right? Like, all these movies were trying to, like, one up themselves. They were trying to, like, be better than everybody else. And this movie comes out. And I think the funny thing is that a lot of people missed the point. And a lot of movies came out after this, like, trying to emulate it. But again, not understanding the point and just going, oh, we just got to do this over the top wacky comedy stuff because that's the way it should go. And it really isn't. So I think that a lot of that side of the wacky comedy horror stuff came not necessarily from this, but things from this, this similar to this because they missed the point. So, like, it's evolved into its own genre because people misunderstood.
Yeah, this is essentially a big middle finger to the horror community in the world.
Right. I mean, it's also fun. I mean, like, it's not like they're insulting it like not giving you what you want. Like you get everything you want in
Right.
this movie. It's just ridiculous. It is so over the top. It's like quintessential 80s, right?
Mhm.
But you don't expect Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 to be this at all.
Right. Even their poster for this was making fun of the Breakfast Club poster.
Right. Right. Like people are like, wait, what? Like the first one was very serious.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously we can look at it kind of now and make fun of Franklin and stuff, but like at that time it was still a very serious horror movie. Like so many people were inspired by it. And then this second one is like again, blew people away. Like, what the hell is this? Like, what did you do? Like this, it's the same guy. Like, what happened?
Right.
But anyway, that's why I like it, and that's basically what I thought when I first watched it. I was like, "What? What did I just watch?" Like, it was one of those movies I had to watch like twice. I watched it one night, and then I had to watch it again like the next morning. I was like, "Did I really see all this like this?" And it was great. I loved it when I saw it, and I've loved it ever since. But not a lot. It's like I said, it's a very polarizing. It is a very strong cult following now, but it
Yeah.
was not liked for a long time.
Well, I would say that it's almost in the same vein of Halloween 3, that now it is finally getting like the appreciation from the horror community.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I've always loved it, but yeah, most people would say, "Oh yeah, this is crap. We don't like it."
Right.
But again, it's kind of odd because a lot of the things that stemmed from this film, are what have made horror what it is today. It's very strange.
Right. They took the crazy that was going on there, the one upping, and just turned it up to 11.
Right.
Really well though.
Right.
All right. Well, I will start then with my highlights. Let's see what first. Bill Moseley. Like, this is his role.
This really is. This is the role that defined him and the role that I don't think he can get away from, unfortunately.
No.
But yes, this is it.
No, I really think Rob Zombie looked at this movie and goes, "Hey, do that character." Okay.
Well, I think
For
he
the
more like
Firefly family.
I think he more like went to Bill Moseley and was like, hey, play whatever character you want, and that's just I think the one he's most comfortable playing.
Yeah. But no, I think he's fantastic. I think he's great at playing the psychotic chop top, with the constant lighting, the picking at his chrome dome that he has from Nam,
Right.
and just his overacting is just perfect. He is someone that is as psychotic, if not more, than Nubbins from the first one. Just turned up a little bit more. The chainsaw duel at the end, loved it. And the atmosphere of the underground cave system lair was just exorbitant. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, it's like take the kind of like Geen-esque fun room
Mhm.
from the first movie and really just like kind of put it in a like underground cave with a bunch of wacky Christmas lights and neon to
Yes.
like amplify it. It's like again, it's like that scene just turned up to 11. It's like just make it ridiculous, and that's what they did. It's like they took that scene from the first one and just amped it up as far as it'll go.
But color wise, think of what they did with Batman and Robin, or Batman Forever, the vibrant colors, but in a horror movie.
Right. Yeah. It's again, it's an interesting watch. If you haven't seen them back to back, you really should watch the first one and the second one back to back and go, what the hell happened here?
Yeah. The fact they have Franklin's body was hysterical, because I think he knew. I think he knew at this point in time how much everyone hated Franklin. And they go, he's still dead. Don't forget.
Right. Okay, but to be fair, it was just a skeleton in a wheelchair.
It
Like,
was.
how the hell do you know that's Franklin? But no, he went out of his way to like talk about fucking Franklin and how this was Franklin. And they had like the spotlight down on him, like like almost angels singing for.
Well,
for
he also
poor
had
Franklin.
the flashlight in his lap still on.
Right.
Unknowing cannibals. I thought that was hysterical. There's no way he didn't feed them people.
Of course he did.
Right, and that they won with it.
Yeah, he won
Um,
the Texas Oklahoma chili cook off.
hell yeah. Um, of course, the chainsaw dance at the end, because like it was a shot for shot interpretive dance that he did, with it. And she
Right,
did too for no reason,
right.
but it's there. Um, that's what I got for highlights.
Highlights. I mean, I do love that. Again, I touched on this a bit now. They big budget, big names. You got Savini, we got Hopper.
Mhm.
It's you can tell there's so much more money behind it. The effects and everything are so much better. The costumes are great. There's so many little details. Like you said, that the underground lair. Like somebody spent a lot of time and effort making
Yeah.
that way. Like it looks great, and you can really feel that big budget in there, which is kind of funny. Two, they played a Cramps song. Like you never hear the
Did.
Cramps in movies, but yeah, they played a Cramps song. They played, and the song, I don't know what song it is. I think it's just a score song, but the song that was playing when Leatherface like literally had like Grandpa tied to his shirt
Mhm.
and like dancing and like chainsawing the car with the frat boys in it. I don't know what it was, but it made the scene almost like comical.
Yes.
It's bizarre but great at the same time. I completely agree with you about Bill Moseley and Chop Top. I'm not gonna really add to it because it's fantastic. Now, are you a Primus fan?
Yes.
Now, the song "Jerry Was a Race Car Driver." Okay,
Mhm.
Les Claypool sounds like a hillbilly. Right? There's no
Yes.
way to get around that. He sounds like a hillbilly. He sounds like Chop Top when he talks. Like they got that same kind of hillbilly southern
Hmm.
accent to him. Now, in the middle of Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, like I thought it was just Les Claypool. I had no idea that it was a scene from this movie. It's the scene where he goes, "Dog will hunt," and he
Yep.
does, and it cuts right in the middle of it. But if you listen to the song, I thought it was just whatever noise in the background. It's the chainsaw in the background. So it's literal just sample from this movie in that song. I didn't know it for the longest time until I watched this movie like later on. I
Hmm.
remember I rented the entire franchise that existed on that at that time on VHS. I think this was like late '90s, so I think there was like four
Yeah.
at that time, and I rented all four of them. And I was watching that movie, and I'm like, no shit. And I paused it and I went and I played that Primus song. I'm like, no shit, that's from this movie. It blew my mind. Blew my mind. I thought it was just Let's Play Cool. They sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, so um yeah, Leatherface, they almost make him like an anti-hero in this movie. Like they try to. Like in the worst way. Not in a good way. In the worst way. They try to make him like almost like empathetic, because he like refuses to kill the girl, and like
Yeah.
again, he feels like he kills less people in this movie than like the other people do. Like he feels
Mhm.
like a reluctant participant, even though he's literally the guy wearing a skin mask and running around with a chainsaw.
Yes.
And it's just odd, and it kind of continues with his weird, anxious nervousness in the first one. As this one is like now it's kind of morphed into he doesn't know how to act around women because he's anxious and nervous, so they can very easily manipulate him.
He's
And
just shy.
right, and it's just bizarre seeing a guy in a skin mask with a chainsaw like react that way. But it does it, and this movie is great. I mean, Dennis Hopper and his just unhinged performance. And I don't. He's in his own movie. I don't know. He barely interacts with anybody else. He talks to Stretch for a while, right? And then he's a chainsaw duel at the end, and then he's just running around for like 30 minutes, just sawing through beams all by himself, like just unhinged, just screaming and running around, just all by himself. And yeah, I gotta say, I love the whole fantasy Murderland. The whole like even the above ground, like like you said, the Alamo Battle Park, whatever the
Yep.
hell that was, and then it just becomes this bizarrely, interesting underground villain lair. It's great. The whole thing is fantastic. Okay, I'll roll right in my low points here. I think the LG and Stretch scene when they're down there, like you know, he's like saving her and she's like putting his skin back on and she's like hiding. It's like, I think that scene was way too long.
Hmm.
Like you could have cut that in easily in half and just gotten away with it. It's like we don't need this weird sappy stuff in the middle of this because we're right in the middle of like, you know, all these fight things about to happen. It's
Right.
just it's bizarre. And yeah, I also put down here they brought Franklin's bones and wheelchair with them. Why would you do that? So yeah, I also thought the same thing there. The Leatherface wiggle that he does constantly. He like holds the chainsaw up in the air and then wiggles around back and forth like Axl Rose. It's bizarre.
That is now in pop culture as the thing that you do with a chainsaw.
You know, I they
Everyone
do
does
it.
it.
Yeah, and everybody that picks up a chainsaw, like if I bought one, I would hold it up and probably do the same thing. Now Chop Top. Now, okay, now I'm not gonna say Chop Top is bad. He's not in this movie. He's great. Bill Moseley is fantastic in this movie. But I will say his portrayal of Chop Top in this movie is what caused a lot of the annoying future characters that I despise in horror films. They're trying to emulate him in this film and
Right.
they don't do it well. And it just comes across as really try hard bad. You know, it's usually some stupid comedy thing they stick in there.
Yeah.
And I will say that's bad. Now again, I'm not saying away from his performance. His performance in this film is great. Not saying he was bad. I'm saying people emulating him in the future made things bad. So like again, I don't like that they did that to his character, but I guess that's the legacy of it. And the score itself, like not the radio songs, and obviously not the song that was playing in the car fight in the beginning, but the score for the rest of it is cheesy. I think it was like ridiculously bad and cheesy on purpose,
Yes.
but it still sucked. It's still not nice to hear all the rest of the score stuff. Songs were great, score not so great.
The score reminded me of Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Correct. It is bizarre. I understand they're probably doing it for effect and as like part of the joke, but like it gets annoying.
Right.
But that's all I got. What do you got?
Like I said, just randomly cutting down beams. Just stupid. That makes zero sense. It's awful. Like,
And the
just
funny thing,
running.
we didn't even get an end part where it collapsed.
Correct.
So he was chopping beams for 30 minutes for no apparent reason.
They did nothing other than the main floor, which is part of the structurally sound and not held up by the top floor. So, I didn't like the turn they did for Leatherface. Like, it just seems so weird for him to go from, this guy who is seemingly enjoying killing people to this guy who uh doesn't, and like he is being peer pressured into being a cannibal. That part didn't make complete sense to me.
Well, I said in the first one, he seems like he almost reluctantly kills people.
Right.
So like I don't think he really wanted to, but it's like, you know, they again, like I said, by Texas law, they came into his house and he had, you know, he defended his house. Obviously eating them is not you're not
Yeah.
supposed to do that. But like yeah, I don't think he was like a murderer. I think he genuinely didn't like doing it. That's why he was anxious and that's why he was like looking out the window and pacing back and forth. I don't think he liked killing. Yes, they have to kill to eat, right? Like because
Mhm.
they eat people. But I think he was generally conflicted about it. I mean, yeah, he's fucked up, dude. He wears a skin mask, right? So he's not
Yeah.
he's not going to be a good guy. But I think it's well to me, I think it's an interesting evolution because you know in 12 years he really hasn't changed all that much. Now
Right.
he's just easily manipulated by women.
Yeah. But I'd say, especially because we watched these so close together, they turn back on it anyway. So this turn is weird in this movie.
I would say the turn in this movie doesn't bother me nearly as much as the turn in the next one does.
Yeah. My God, that chili looks disgusting in the slump
Yes, it
of the
does.
trophy.
Yeah, it looks looks like it's mixed with like you know after you eat a bunch of spinach shit.
Yeah.
It's gross.
How they get the organs in the wall? Why are the organs in the wall? That makes no sense to me. Dennis Hopper clearly not knowing how to use a chainsaw.
It's, yeah, it's like a guy that doesn't know how to use a chainsaw assumes it works like an axe, so he's like hacking at the wood like an axe with the chainsaw. Yes, that's what he's
Yes,
doing.
but it turned the chainsaw emporium shopkeeper on. So
I want to go to a chainsaw emporium showroom. I just want to go to an all chainsaw store.
yeah. Uh, damn, 137 years old for grandpa. Like, holy shit. That's ridiculous. You have a steel door that chainsaws cannot cut through, but paper walls.
Well, that's a lot of people do that, dude. A lot of people do that. And a lot of people are like, oh, we got to secure this room. Let's put in this big safe door. But they don't think of like, hey, the wall is made out of fucking drywall.
Yeah.
You can punch through it. Like people don't think like that. That's why
I would. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, if you look at a lot of like robberies and shit, like big time robberies, that's how they get in. They just find a wall or a floor that's like, totally weak and completely unguarded, and they get into safes and deposit box rooms and shit like that through like the floor because they don't secure the floor.
Yeah. I'd say even Burnos called attention to that. He goes to a house and it's like a steel door. He's like, what most people realize is they built the steel door, but the walls are shit. And shoots through the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Like most people don't even think about that. They don't think about reinforcing something else. They're like, oh, the door is secure. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And let's face it, Lefty was kind of a bit of an asshole for using her as bait. And
he's 100%
the shit out of her.
He's 100%. So he let her get okay. He had to have heard that fucking chainsaw.
Yes.
He was chasing her around for like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, screaming for 25 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I got.
All right. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 1986. I'll go first this time. I love this movie. I don't care what anybody says. You can hate me if you want. 9 bone sculptures out of 10.
The rewatch and especially when you do research for these episodes that we do, it made me appreciate this movie more on the rewatch than I did the first time I watched it, for sure. And it's a solid movie, and especially with other things that are coming up in this franchise, I will give this 8.75. So
yeah, so now we're starting to decline.
Yeah.
Okay, don't fear, people. It does pick back up. There's fits and starts and ups and downs all throughout this, but right now we're on a little bit of a downturn. But that's okay. We'll pop up later. Next episode. So the next movie we have is Leatherface. He gets his name in top billing. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. They took away the for some reason.
Yes, they should call it Leatherface meets the 90s.
Right. Now, this came out in 1990. So
yes.
I guess there is a couple of big names in this one. Well, really only one, right? Is Viggo Mortensen is in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody else. I mean, I know the Benny is, he's been in a lot of other stuff. He's kind of like an icon from this point forward. But I think this is one of the first ones he was in. So I don't think he was an icon at this time.
Right.
I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't remember him in anything else, but I'm sure he's been other stuff. So this one is I can't even remember their names. Like I don't like them so much. Ryan is the guy's name.
Yes.
I don't remember her name. Whatever. They're I guess they're dating, or they were. I don't know. It's very odd.
Michelle.
So Ryan and Michelle I guess they were dating, and like she's apparently moving on, but she wanted to have like one last road trip with her boyfriend. I don't know. It's a very odd relationship that never really gets explained. They're more or less just bickering and arguing like the entire fucking first half of this movie that they're together. It's like they're just there to create friction with each other. I really feel that anyway. But they're apparently driving a car for someone else from
Her
like
dad.
one location to another location for
Yeah,
like
her
her
dad.
dad or
Yep.
something. I don't know. It's like a classic Mercedes. So they're doing this road trip thing, and they're supposed to be like, their last hangout, and he is obviously not taking it well, and she is just oblivious as to, oh, why are you not taking it well? Like, come on, you break up with a guy and you say, "Want to go on one last road trip with me?" Like, of course he's gonna be a dick about it. So anyway, so they're driving. They end up at a gas station to get gas, and the guy he's like your typical, like, again, like a lot of these movies at this point in 1990, it is a trope, right? So where there's
Yes.
always a creepy gas station guy, and this
Mhm.
guy's like ultra creepy because he's like sitting in a chair, literally cutting up porn magazines with a pair of scissors.
Haphazardly.
Yeah, haphazardly, and like mumbling about his ladies or something. Like, I don't know. It's not pleasant, right? So Vigo Mortensen kind of shows up. He like apparently hitched a ride with somebody else. He shows up, kind of feels like he knows the guy because he just kind of walks in. They just say hello to each other. He just kind of walks in. And then the lovely couple of Ryan and Michelle pull up. They go to try to get like gas. The guy is like, of course, super creepy. Ryan goes into like the bathroom, so she's alone out there with the creepy guy. And he's like, as he's pumping gas, he's like mumbling all this weird, creepy shit that she can hear him. He's like, oh, this fucking bitch, all of my fucking ladies. He's like all this weird shit. And she's like, this is not cool. So Ryan comes back out. They're kind of like a weird, like pervert standoff between him and the other guy. Anyway, Vigo comes out and kind of diffuses the whole thing, and is like, "Oh, I'll keep him busy. Just get out of here." And then the creepy guy runs in, grabs a shotgun, and chases him out, and then runs into the street and actually shoots out their back window, and then turns and appears to shoot Vigo.
Right.
And so they're like, oh shit, Vigo, the guy that was trying to help us, is fucking dead. He shot at us, blew out our window. We got to get the hell out of here. So they're like driving. Vigo had told them, oh, because he was trying to get a ride from them. And he was saying, oh, you don't want to take the highway. Like, that's the long way. You want to take this road. This road cuts straight through. Like, your map is an old map. It doesn't have this road. This is, trust me, I'm a local. I know how to get through here.
Hmm.
So they decide to take his route as, yeah, genius. So they take his route. They get kind of attacked by a truck that's like chasing them with like, the big, huge, lights, kind of like, smashing them and banging them around. And they get scared and they get run off the road because they see a person in the road. And it kind of looked like Vigo, right? But then they were just gone.
Yeah, I assumed it was Vigo.
Right. It looked like Vigo, but then he wasn't there for a long time. So, like, I don't know if it actually was him or not. Anyway, there was somebody in the road. So they flip off the road. Sorry. I guess before this point, they were like attacked with the chainsaw. So they were like chainsawing up the trunk of their car because they got a flat tire when they were being chased. And so they had to stop to fix the flat tire when they were doing that. Leatherface attacks them with the chainsaws up, and takes the top of their trunk off their car.
Not before Squeaky.
Oh yeah, because he's got a Mad Max leg brace on for
Yes.
some reason. I don't know
It's a
why.
character trait now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand, but we'll get into that. So they had this altercation. Then they're driving. Then they see somebody in the road, and they basically crash off the road. We have this other character, Benny, who is that's his name, right? Benny.
Yeah.
Benny, or yeah,
That's funny.
Benny. So he is in like a Jeep, and he says it later, but I'll just say it now to make it. He's like a survivalist guy, and apparently every weekend he goes up to this like survivalist camp to like train, how to like live through the apocalypse because it's 1990, and technically the Cold War was still going on, so there's a lot of that. So he sees the same thing and he runs off the road too, but his Jeep just kind of flips over and he's more or less okay. So he goes and finds the couple, basically find out what's going on. they're injured and stuff. He helps, them get out of the car, and he's like, "What's going on?" And they tell him that they were chased by a guy with the chainsaw and all this kind of shit. And he's like, "Okay," he thinks they just got their head hit too hard.
Yeah.
So he
Oh yeah.
gives them painkillers.
They took unknowing painkillers.
Right. Yeah. Unknown, like apparently strong painkillers. And he gives it to him. And then later on, like shortly after that, they show him their car with like, chainsaw marks all over it. And he goes, "Oh shit. Maybe there was a chainsaw guy chasing you. Sorry about that. You're all drugged up. You probably feel real sleepy. I gotta go like get some stuff from my Jeep, to like protect us or whatever. I'll be right back." So he goes to the Jeep, and then he basically gets in a kind of like a fight with Leatherface, right? Leatherface is chasing
Mhm.
him around with his chainsaw, blah blah blah. He gets saved by this other girl that's like kind of like living feral in the forest. She leads Leatherface away. They meet up after Leatherface gets, I guess, lured off in a different direction. And she basically says she's been out there for 5 days.
Right.
Like they got her whole family got trapped out there 5 days ago. They're all dead. She's the only one left. And they've been out there hunting her for 5 days. So like apparently they keep doing this with everybody. So anyway, so Benny tries to help her and bring her with, and she really doesn't want any part of that. So C goes off and just dies.
Yep.
She gets killed like immediately because Leatherface finds her, so she's dead. So Benny finally gets to his Jeep and gets his rifle, and then loads his rifle up. I mean, I think he does. Well, I think he actually gets to it before Leatherface, but he never gets a chance to shoot it because Leatherface keeps knocking it out of his hands. Anyway, so now he has his rifle. And then he kind of tries to go back to where the other car is, but then we cut back to them. They wake up from their painkiller induced slumber and go, "Oh shit, I guess we got to get out of here." So they try to escape, and of course they're screaming and yelling Benny's name like geniuses. So Leatherface finds them. Ryan gets his foot stuck in like a bear trap.
Yeah.
And he gets stuck, and then he tells her to run, and she runs, and of course doesn't get very far before another guy pops up. Vigo and another guy. I don't know who that guy is. Like, I guess he's like his stepdad. It's not really explained, but he doesn't look old enough to be his real dad. Like
I would agree.
they look like maybe they're maximum 10 years apart. Anyway, so now we're introduced to more of the family. So there's Vigo is actually part of this family, we find out. Because he helps bring her in. This other guy that was the guy that was driving the truck that was trying to run him off the road earlier is like his stepdad, I guess. So anyway, so they bring Ryan and Michelle back to their house, which is, I guess, the kind of stand-in for the massacre house, right? I mean, it looks kind of similar, but it's not the same house. But we got the same stuff: the bone sculptures, the meat hanging around, But there's apparently a little girl. Now, the credits say that it's Leatherface's daughter, but I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. But whatever. She's a small child that's in this house that's part of this cannibal family. So we get a small girl that looks like a, I don't know, 50s version of a 10-year-old girl. We get Vigo. We get stepdad guy who doesn't look that much older than him. We get Mama, who's in like a wheelchair and has like, a speaker for a throat. I mean, for like, instead of talking normally, she speaks to this speaker in her throat, but her voice sounds normal other than it's like,
Right. It's almost like people that have throat cancer that have to have the box they put to their throat to act as vocal cords.
Yeah, but that is like, but sometimes they're hard to understand because they have to like, mouth their words a certain way. Her voice is coming out normally. It just like has like, effects put on it to make it sound like it's further away or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's improbable technology. How about that? That is using, especially with this, hillbilly version of technology they have out there. the speaker coming out of her neck. So yeah, there's Vigo, stepdad, mama, little girl, and Leatherface are the whole family.
Hmm.
Now they're trying to pretend like they're like happy nuclear family, right? But again, it's like it's not really fully explained like who's who. I'm assuming one guy is stepdad, one guy is mama. Vigo is the son of mama, but not the son of the dude. And then Leatherface is also the son of mama, but not because Leatherface looks like he's older than the stepdad guy.
Let's just say their family tree is a circle.
Yeah, whatever it is, they're hillbilly cannibals, blah blah.
Yeah.
So the Michelle gets like nailed to a chair, and we get the kind of dinner scene. She basically watches the little girl kill Ryan with a hammer to the head.
Because getting chainsawed isn't good enough to kill someone.
right. Well, I guess there has to be a hammer kill in every Chainsaw Massacre movie, at least up until this point.
Yeah.
So they're all like, gonna butcher up the guy, and they're all like, gonna bring her into the dinner. They're about to kill her, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, shots ring out. Benny finally shows up to the house and just starts randomly shooting into the house through all the windows. Mama's down. Right? Mama gets shot like 3 times. Leatherface. Oh, sorry. I missed the scene where they gave Leatherface his new fancy chainsaw. That's like literally made out of fucking gold with like engraving on it and shit. That says like the Saw is family. If you've ever seen the poster for the movie, that's the Saw.
Yes.
That says the Saw is family on it. They give him that as a gift for some whatever. I don't understand that whole thing. But anyway, so that gets shot out of his hand. He runs away. Vigo manages to get away mostly unscathed. Stepdad gets shot.
Yep.
Little girl.
His random shooting into the house is more effective than taking out every beam we find.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Little girl is also, I believe, taken out.
No, because she's at the top. Wacky.
I don't even remember
when they fight outside next with Benny and Vigo.
Okay. So yeah, Mama's down. Leatherface disappeared. There's a fight between Benny and Vigo, which ends in Vigo getting covered in gasoline, and then Benny lighting him on fire.
Mm-hmm.
He dies that way. I don't remember the little girl. You said she appears in what?
She's at the top of the window because she goes wacky as with the hammer being hit and all that crap. So I just remember that because she is, spoiler alert, top of my list for low points.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan either. Full disclosure, I was drinking heavily while I was watching this movie. But anyway, so that happens. There's like a scene with the gas station guy that is now also part of this family, is out like dumping body parts in like this swamp.
Is the soup done?
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on there. There was like a bizarre fight there where he gets like stabbed and killed. Actually, I think he was the first one Benny fought. I think I missed that part. I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, Benny fought him. And anyway, they get back to that same swamp, and then Benny has like a fight with Leatherface in the water.
Yes, choreographed chainsaw.
Well,
dance water aerobics.
Yeah, I have no fucking clue what planet the physics are that they are in on this fucking fight, because nothing that is happening makes any sense to me.
Are you saying the chainsaw would not work underwater and move around?
Well,
like it's alive.
Okay, one, the chainsaw is floating on top of the water. Mm-hmm. 2, it's still running while completely submerged. And 2, it's spinning its chain without being held onto, which is all. I mean, okay, it
causes water spouts.
Yeah, it was a custom-made chainsaw. Maybe they made it so it does that. I don't know why you would, but maybe it does that. But even if it does all those fucking things, if you like touch it, what is it being held against?
Right.
Like it doesn't have the strength to, like, if you touch it, it should just blub or float away or something. Again, that's if the physics up until that point are correct, which they're not. But if they were up to that point, if you touch it, there's no pressure there. It should just float right away. But no, people are getting cut up on this fucking magical chainsaw. Anyway, yeah. So of course, Leatherface supposedly gets killed on this chainsaw. Benny gets out, Benny doesn't. And then God, I remember she gets in a truck.
Well, so Benny supposedly gets killed by the chainsaw.
Right.
She smashes Leatherface's head with a rock.
Sorry, little guy.
Yeah, sorry. It's not hit you ever. She goes to the truck. That's when the gas station attendant, Last Chance Gas, is there.
Well, no, he comes up again. After Benny kills him,
Yeah.
he comes back. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, I'm getting my gun. There's a fight for it. And then he's like, oh man, I broke all my windows. Oh, you have the gun. What are you gonna do that? Do you know how to use it? Sure do.
Yeah.
Boom.
Then she shoots him. And then Benny shows up.
Yes.
Having
and they
survived.
drive away.
Yeah.
With minimal damage for being chainsawed to the face.
Correct.
And then they drive away, and oh my god, Leatherface is still there.
Yeah, we get it. We get his squeaky leg.
Yep. That's in the movie.
Done.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, I will fully admit that I was pretty drunk. By the time the end came around, I was trying to forget. But I at least I remember most of it. I was doing all right.
So what are your first thoughts on this or rewatch?
Yeah, I've only ever seen this movie one time, and that was, like I said, I watched the entire franchise up until that point all at the same time. It was all the same day. I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, and I remember I loved 1, I loved 2, I did not like 3 or 4. And I don't really remember much about them. I remember the stupid chainsaw, and that was really about it. I didn't remember much about the third. So It didn't impress. Again, I know it didn't impress me because I didn't remember anything about it. It's also the fourth one. The fourth one's the same. I barely remember anything about it. And I've watched the ones since then. And the ones since then, some of them are good. Some of them are okay. But like, I think the low point is this movie.
Oh, we're in it.
Yeah, this one and the fourth one are the low points. And it's it's just disappointing. That I'll just say it's just disappointing compared to the highs of 1 and 2 to come to this. And it's just like an overly generic version. Like, again, the first one was iconic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a, everyone says it's like one of the greatest horror movies of all time, right? No doubt about that. Second one, polarizing, but also very, very influential, right? And then this one is just like it's there. It's nothing. It doesn't do anything new. It doesn't do anything interesting or different. It's just a generic horror movie, which is sad for this franchise considering what the first 2 were.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why it's just ultimately forgettable. Why I just don't remember it.
Yeah, as I said before, it's Leatherface meets the 90s.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. And it gets ruined because of it. You want to start with your highlights?
Sure. I will say I did like Vigo in this movie. I mean, he's not in it for too long, but I thought he did a pretty damn good job. And plus, it's interesting seeing a baby Vigo in a horror movie that you don't expect him to be in. Obviously, way before Lord of the Rings, but it was fun. It's good. Benny was great. I thought Benny was outstanding. He was a fun character. It's an interesting character, different character than you normally see, right? Yep. You don't normally see like a survivalist person that actually like survives. Right? All those guys are almost always the first guys to go.
Right.
I thought the cannibal kind of butchery thing was interesting, right? I mean, it's like, at least they kept that aspect of it. I don't think it was as fun as the other 2, but at least they kept it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was great. And I thought the scene where Benny just starts blindly shooting through the windows was fantastic. I mean, like, you usually don't see that. It's always like they're going to aim at somebody and then somebody sneaks up behind them and like knocks it out of their hand. It's always what happens. But no, this movie, he just unloads all over the house. It's great. But that's it. That's all I got.
All right. So, friend of the other show we do, Mick Strawn, was the production designer of this movie. I immediately saw his name and I go, awesome. But that being said, him working with like the art department and doing some of the effects, when the gore was shown, it was good. Now we'll get to that point later on the other side of this. I do like the fact that Stretch from the second one was in this as a cameo, which is interesting. She was the reporter at the stop by the cop.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't. You think she would have reported stuff and would be interested and maybe involved with this, but no.
Maybe she was. We just didn't see that part of it.
Maybe. I finally remember driving on Interstate Texas Road because that's what it says, Texas Road. Thanks, Hollywood. We know you're not in Texas. Can't even make up a fake sign for a real interstate in Texas. Can't be bothered with that. But I thought it was funny. It just said Texas Road. The final girl was not screaming for the last 30 minutes. Finally. I appreciated that after watching people scream for an hour. The last two. So I do appreciate that. That's all I got for the highlights. I'll roll into my little points. They can. It seems they seem to be up in the air whether Sally's dead or not in this franchise. I think this movie plays into that, especially the little girl's doll being named Sally with like decay on her. Still confirming that maybe she's dead, but we know she's not. I'd say in comparison to the first two, this movie doesn't feel like I'm in the Texas heat. It is way too clean.
It's also there's like swamps.
Yeah.
That's like Louisiana. That's not Texas.
No, not at all. But still way too clean. Like you looked at the Sawyer family, you go, okay, something might be wrong with them. They have like perfect teeth, flossing, all that jazz, which is really weird for the Sawyer family. I kind of feel like this ignores number 2 fully.
Honestly, I think it ignores number 1. It feels like they just made their own movie, ignoring what came before. They just like kind of sort of use the character. That's it.
Yeah,
the character and the idea, and then they just ran with it, did their own thing.
Right, I agree. Squeaky knee, Leatherface. It's hard to sneak up on someone with a squeaky knee and the chainsaw, but somehow he still manages to do it.
I think the guy who made this was a big Mad Max fan.
The little girl, I'll just say her one-liners, yak yak. Yeah, thanks for reminding me it's the 90s. I expect her to say "Where's the beef" at some point in time. Quite honestly, it was that.
I like them peepers, bitch.
That's the best one-liner of all time. I like livers and onions and violence. God damn it! Everyone doesn't need one liner in this movie, but everyone had to have one. That just annoyed the crap out of me. And we'll talk about the kill scene. This was heavily edited down. Apparently, is rated X for the gore, and for that being the case, I feel like we didn't get a lot of gore. Like it was watered down Friday the 13th.
Which scene did they cut down? All of them?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because when you get chainsaw to the face, you don't have a slight blood trickle on the side of your head. So I almost feel like he died. And they didn't have a continuity check in place. Like chainsaws to the face is pretty damaging. But no, you're fine. And it's just weird feral people. I just don't understand why. But yeah, it says it was originally rated X because of the graphic violence. It was rated down to NC-17, and then it was trimmed down even again to get cut. So they said 4 minutes and 18 seconds was cut. So apparently the trailer was comedic. So
well, yeah, I don't.
The trailer. Yes, the trailer was Excalibur rising from the water and said it was that stupid chainsaw rising from the water calling the Tetherface. I remember that trailer now. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what I got.
All right. Well, number one, Ryan fucking deserved what he got. Dear God, that guy was so fucking annoying. Every time he was on screen, he was whining and crying about something. Like they were just fighting nonstop. It's just like, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Get your fucking Z Cavaricis out of here. That guy was driving me crazy. Okay, so the Leatherface changes that they made in this film, like again, I feel like they kept just the aesthetic version of Leatherface, and it's not the same guy. Because like the
Right.
first two, again, he was very weirdly anxious and nervous, and like obviously like kind of had like the brain of a child or something, right? He was just like, yeah, he was a murderous psychopath, but he was also like
Simple.
mentally unstable, and yeah, simple. That's a good word for it. Yeah, like that. But like this movie, he really just feels like a kind of generic killer, right? Your kind of
Yes.
generic slasher. Yeah, yeah. They got the weird scene of like him hanging out with his family and like kissing his daughter, which is bizarre. But overall, he just doesn't feel like the same character. And I mean, obviously, taking that one step further, who the fuck are these family people? Right? Like none of these people were ever mentioned before. I mean, at least in the second one, is like, oh, it's his twin brother. They made up some bullshit, right? So that they could have that character there. But at least it was the same, you know, cook. And Grandpa was there. And like, yeah, Grandpa's in this one, but he looks like he's got like, I don't know, fish mouth eyes.
Yes.
And like Grandpa was definitively dead in the second one.
Yeah.
He was like blown up, and like he was dead in the second one. And then again, like who's mama, who's stepdad, who the hell is Vigo, like who are these
He's
people?
Tex.
Yeah, why does Leatherface have like a 10-year-old daughter 4 years later? I'm just like, I'm very confused as to these family people and why Leatherface is who he is. It doesn't feel like it's in continuity at all, is what I'm basically trying to say. I thought it was dumb as shit when like he gets a chainsaw knocked out of his hand and then he like pulled out that little mini saw.
Uh-huh.
Like, come on, man. Like it's again, this is like the, oh, I'm a total badass slasher guy. I have like a million weapons. You can never stop me kind of bullshit. It was stupid. Um, Again, like I said, chainsaws don't run underwater. Chainsaws don't fucking float. Like if you put pressure on a floating running chainsaw, it will not cut anything because either it's gonna sink or bob away or something. Like there's no pressure to, like, a chainsaw works. You have to push things to like make it cut. You know what I mean? Like it won't just, can't just barely touch it. I don't know. It was, that whole scene was just bothering me. I'm like, what are you doing? And then the music was horrible. The music, they had like this horrible, like, I don't know, Iron Maiden cover band, like screaming stuff. And it's so bad. And it's like they have it like multiple times. So like multiple different songs. I was looking at the credits to see like if I heard of any of these bands. Nope.
No.
Nope. They are just crappy no name bands that just submitted these like, shitty, I guess this is 1990. Like, this Iron Maiden type metal screamy stuff is not in fashion anymore. I don't know why there's so many of them in this movie, but they're really bad. And there's a song called Leatherface, which is like,
There
if you can
sure is.
imagine a bad Iron Maiden cover band screaming about Leatherface, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
But yeah, that's all I got.
all right. Would you like me to go first for number of bone sculptures out of 10?
Yes. So Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I, 1990 Graveyard. What's your score?
God damn this movie. They turned as you rightly pointed out, they turned a icon into a generic slasher that its claim to fame is it had Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, it's really, that's what it is. Viggo Mortensen and then Benny, who shows up in other movies later on.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I mean, he was in Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, he's in Dawn of the Dead. He was also he was Captain Spaulding's brother at Devil's Rejects.
Yes.
So like he's
Yeah.
been in a lot of stuff. It just that's the first movie I remember being in. He probably was in earlier ones. I just don't know.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead was before this.
Oh, the original. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He was also in the remake, so
Right.
or Day of the Dead, which one of those two. But that being said, this movie I clearly forgot a lot about this movie, and for a good reason, it seems like. So I will go down to 4 bone sculptures out of 10. I know there's one worse than this, so yeah, there's some wiggle room here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, this is just a very forgettable film. I mean, it's really just not anything to remember. Like I said, I saw it. I don't remember shit about it other than the stupid saw. That was it. But again, that's because that saw was all over everything. It was all over the posters. It looks ridiculous in the movie, so it's an iconic thing to remember because it's so stupid.
Yes.
But other than that, I didn't remember anything about this movie, and that's just goes to show you how forgettable it is. So, yeah, I'll agree with you. Four bone sculptures out of 10 is a good score for it.
Sweet.
That's it. Anything you want to add to the first 3?
No, it's a strong, almost trilogy, except for the last piece.
Right. Yeah. The last piece is a step off. The first 2 are good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there are still 2 weeks to go on our Chainsaw Summer Fun franchise deep dive. So stay tuned next week when we go over the next 3 in the series. Yes, we have some big names in number 4, then another big name reboot, and then a prequel to that reboot with at least some of the same characters. So kind of, sort of keeps in line. We'll see.
Sure.
The time jumps, reboots, and retcons are just getting started. So don't touch that dial. Remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to.
And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.
All right.